My check 1212. It's the Y2K collector. And once again, Sony gives us a reminder as to why we need to hold on to our physical media. Many of you know that there was an outage with the PlayStation Network. I'm not sure how long the outage lasted, but it definitely was an inconvenience to anyone who was utilizing any of the PlayStation Network services. And this outage actually has Capcom doing some beta tests on Monster Hunter Wild. Now, I don't know if these tests are for them to see if there's a separate network that they can run their games on, but these are the risks that you run, right? When you solely depend on networks and streaming and cloud services and data services, they're just a lot less out of your control in terms of how reliable they're going to be. And whenever I see things like this, I'm always reminded as to why I need to keep at least some physical media in my collection. Now, does it mean that you need to go out there and buy every single PlayStation game and try to build a collection of thousands and thousands of games? No. But this is why I think that, like anything else in life, it's always good to have a healthy balance between physical and digital. Because I've heard a lot of people make the statement about physical media, and those who are proponents of physical media, they say all of the things like, well, your games are going to have disk rot, and um, a natural disaster can destroy your games, and the dog can chew on it, and someone can rob your house and steal all your games. And those who really are against physical media will give you 1,001 ways that you will lose your physical media, whereas it's a lot less likely for you to lose your physical media, especially to something like disk rot, than it would be for you to lose access to your digital media due to networks being shut down, outages like the one that we saw. You sell your old console, but now you can't get all of the games you had downloaded on your old console, have those downloaded to your new console. There's so many different horror stories that I've heard of, people losing access to some of their digital content. And, I, I definitely understand the convenience in streaming and downloading games. There are times where there have been times where I was just too lazy to get up and go to the store and buy a game, especially if it was a game that I didn't really feel like I needed to have physically. And there's definitely a ton of convenience in being able to go to the Nintendo eShop or go, the PlayStation Network and just download the game and be able to play it. I definitely believe that there's a ton of convenience there that definitely has value. But when you think about things like preservation and access and peace of mind, so to speak, there's definitely another level of peace of mind that I get as a collector, knowing that I do have access to these physical titles, that I do have access to the media whenever I want to. And as long as I take good care of my video games, as long as I make sure that I'm not playing frisbee with my discs, right? As long as I'm not putting all of my games underwater, or something very unlikely, these games for the most part should still be here for me 5, 10, 15 years from now, should I decide to go back and play them. And I don't know if some of these PlayStation servers, I don't know if some of these Nintendo or Xbox servers are still going to be around. And here's the thing, forget about just having to worry about whether or not they're going to be around. What are they going to cost? Right? What is the cost going to look like? The thing about buying a video game is that once you buy it, it's one and done. You don't necessarily have to worry about buying it again or anything like that, unless of course it breaks. But when you're paying monthly for for a service that gives you access to games, or when you're paying for some type of monthly service, or you're paying to download things, it's a lot less. It's a lot easier for prices to change on you. It's a lot easier for companies to change their subscription model. It's a lot easier for them to play games with the pricing, and there's really not much you can do. It kind of reminds me of when a lot of people, you know, I want to say in the mid 2000s, mid to late 2000s. So like 2018, 2019-ish, maybe even earlier, maybe 2016-ish, a lot of people started moving away from legacy cable and internet services. What do I mean by legacy? Like a lot of people stopped buying TV packages. No one really was buying Dish Network or Direct TV or even like AT&T Uverse or Verizon Fios. A lot of people were moving away from legacy television and kind of opting more for streaming services like your Netflix, your Hulu's, your your Disney Plus, your Paramount, this, that, and the third. And for a while, it seemed like that was the wave, right? Because now you no longer have to pay for the physical equipment associated with legacy TV. You don't have to worry about paying monthly rental charges for a set-top box. You don't have to worry about paying monthly charges, for a remote. If you need a remote, or if your remote breaks down, you don't have to worry about replacing the remote. And you don't have to worry about paying all of the extra taxes and surcharges for having legacy television, in addition to all of the extras that you would have to pay for the movie channels. Well, what we started to see happen, especially once 2020 rolled around, was that these these streaming services started increasing their charges. Netflix, increased their monthly rate for Netflix services, and a lot of these companies started to basically release their own platforms. Now you have Paramount. Now you still have Hulu. You still have Netflix. Now you've got Disney Plus. Now you've got HBO Max. Now you've got all these different streaming services. And when you add them all up, right? Because there's going to be a show that you're going to want to watch that's going to be on one of those platforms. So if you want to watch all of your shows, and mind you, this is for people who do watch TV and are into TV. But if you want to have access to everything, now you're paying pretty much the same price that you were paying when you just had your old TV package. And you don't have all those extra little weird channels like True TV and stuff like that. Or I'm just spitballing here. But the point of them, you guys get the point. The point is that in today's day, if you want to have access to all of the streaming services that were once considered to be cheaper than legacy television, if you want to have all the access to all those services now, you're going to be paying pretty much the same price. Plus, you still have to still pay for your internet on top of that. So it's really not benefiting you when it comes to these services, especially when some of these services experience outages. That's a bummer. A lot of times they say streaming services are a lot more reliable. Well, that's not always the case. We saw that with the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight, where there was an outage, or there was just way too many people on Netflix's server, and things start to break down and slow down and things of that nature. So um the moral of the story for me is, I guess, you can pick your poison if you want to go physical or if you want to go digital. But for me, like I said, whenever I see um instances like this outage that Sony just experienced, where people didn't have access to the network, whenever I see things like that, it makes me feel good about the fact that I at least have the physical media that I want. I don't need to have every video game. I don't need to have every DVD. I don't need to have every Blu-ray out there. But as long as I have, as enough of what I want in my collection, I'm okay if I lose access to a streaming service. I'm okay if the network shut down, because until they get back up, I've got a solid library of games that I thoroughly enjoy that I can play until at least they get these things back up and running. But let me know what you think. Are you in the middle? Do you believe it's good to have a little bit of both? Have some digital, have some physical? Are you all physical? Are you all digital, and why? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.